Good afternoon. You can see I'm struggling with the technology here. Hello, I'm Edward Probert. This is the afternoon of Wednesday, the 21st of October, and this is the daily reflection from Salisbury Cathedral. I'm the Canon Chancellor here. Welcome. Just recently I read a book about Neanderthals, our distant cousins from the human family. They were once widespread across Europe and Asia, but they died out about 40,000 years ago. To a limited extent, they seem to have interbred with our ancestors, and so many of us have a small genetic inheritance from that strange time and those people who are beyond memory. Now, as ever, having looked into things about which I knew very little, I came away amazed, on the one hand, by the astonishing ways in which things have been found out. Bear in mind that just a couple of centuries ago, geological processes and the whole vast extent of geological and prehistoric times were barely grasped. And these people were wholly unknown. But in just these last couple of decades, the very limited proto-human remains from these Neanderthals, surviving as scraps of just a couple of hundred individuals who've been turned by time into fossilized minerals, mineralized fossils to be more precise, they've begun to yield up DNA evidence and a wealth of other material. So much is now being found out about them that the whole field of Neanderthal studies is so big that scholars within it have become highly specialized in one part or another of that field. Which reminds me of something I once heard the late politician Tony Benn say in a reflective mood in old age, how he'd learned at some point that however much he read, more books were published every year than he could ever actually read in a lifetime. And so every year, he realized, was a relentless experience in getting more ignorant. Well, that's a humbling but an accurate insight, and it applies at least as much to you and me as it did to him. This fact of growing ignorance, of course, arises from a human capacity to communicate, and so because we can communicate, to share knowledge and skills. It's our defining characteristic as humans, actually, I'd say. And the fruits of it have been on a relentless exponential curve throughout our relatively short history as a breed. You can see this curve in our numerical position as a breed, but also in our intellectual position as a breed. Think of the progression: language, writing, printing, telegraph, telephone, moving images, internet. Just as we have gathered pace, so it all has relentlessly hurried away from us and our ability to grasp or manage what's coming at us. Our ancestors in the caves, in a way, had a much less to contend with. They were just scattered communities, and they faced day by day the challenges of sustenance, survival. Well, if we step back a moment from the worries of the coronavirus and the many things that oppress us particularly, the immediate challenges we face, I find myself asking whether we aren't seeing something of the effects of these more enduring but accelerating strains on modern humanity in some fairly familiar trends. Just look at the news, for example. The news have been shortened and simplified visibly in my own lifetime. If you compare a 19th century newspaper with one today, you'll see what I mean. Political and commercial appeals for support, advertising, the media in general, have become ever more precisely segmented, less broadcast, and very defined, as it were, tribal identities are commonly stated. People are Catalan, BAME, Scottish. They're from Greater Manchester, LGBTQI, Native American Rust Belt. We're familiar with these terms. There are an infinite number of them, of course. But the frequency with which we hear and see these terms, and many others like them, is an indicator of a pull towards things much smaller than the 7 or 8 billion or whatever we are now, people out there who share our species with us. You and I, and our kind, came quite late on this planet. Before us came the stardust, the seething elements, the shifting tectonic plates, the billions of years, the dinosaurs, and even long extinct ancestors now become minerals. It's customary to use terms like dinosaur, Neanderthal in disparaging ways, but we owe it to ourselves to show some humility here. These creatures of God have been on this earth for a lot longer than we have so far managed, or frankly, than we look like managing. For all our amazing intellectual and social talents, we'd better find ways to live together and together with our planet and the things on it in ways that transcend our like, however we may define that. I wonder, in the eternity of God, from where has come all this hurry? Thank you for listening if you have. Goodbye.